Good morning, everyone. My name's Doc, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we have a very special guest on in Dentoshi. Dentoshi is an OG in the crypto space, one of the rare breeds of traders that uses EMAs in her trading system, as well as the infamous gap fills that we all know and come to love. Very thankful that I got her on the pod to speak today with us and share any insight and experience that she has. So thank you, Dentoshi. Thank you for joining us.
Awesome. What a great intro. I'm honored. Super nice to be here. I've been keeping a very close eye on your channel as well lately, so I'm a fan. So yeah,
Hey,
it's great
likewise.
to share today.
I think is interesting. The first time I came to know you was you put out a tweet, I think, on Arbitrum, somewhere back in April or May, and I saw your chart, and I was like, "Wow, that's like the exact same setup I'm looking at." And I don't know if I shared it in the comments or something. We had a little like a back and forth, and I was like, "There's really only two or three of us that uses like the local EMAs and the high time frame EMAs, as well as some simple support and resistance to inform our trade." So I think that was pretty cool.
100%. I do remember that moment, and I think that stems from us having a few of the same teachers, most likely, which will be Pierre and
Yeah,
Krillin,
yeah.
who also over the years became friends of mine. And when I was just starting out, they really taught me a lot. I was always able to go back and forth with them in DMs, and I think that I kind of just hit them up. And also, we had some mutual friends of some people that really helped me in this industry when I was just starting out. And I feel like in general with trading, you really want to feel like a fish in the water when you look at your charts. And I think that for me, like it didn't click like that until I started using EMAs, and you probably had the same. Otherwise, you wouldn't be using it.
You know why I got into using it actually? Yeah, like I came into trading. I think a lot of people have the same idea of like, oh, I'm coming in, I'm going to use price action. I know liquidity. Let me study ICT. And then you come into crypto and you realize like crypto is about parabolic moves. It's about 20, 30, 50% moves. And I shouldn't really just be chasing, 1, 2R. I should have a system in play that allows me to capture those and manage risk along the way. And I luckily just found Pierre like last year. I think it was like March, April of last year, and I saw him outperforming a lot of people and staying really calm and having a system in place. And I was like, that's interesting. I need to learn that. What I'm
Yeah.
doing, what I'm doing is not going to cut it long term if I want to make it in crypto.
100%. I mean, I think that's what I say in the video series a lot that I just started is like it's a visual representation of the trend.
Yeah.
And I think that where a lot of people go wrong is that they get caught up in their bias and kind of start interpreting things the way that suits what they want to see in the charts.
Yep.
Whereas with an EMA, it's like pretty clear, right? It's either up or under, or it's choppy. And obviously, that also takes some strength to acknowledge that you shouldn't be trading if things might be choppy. But in general, it gives you like a very clear yes or no, which is what I love about it.
Yeah. Yeah. That my two favorite quotes out of CT the last year is like two favorite tweets. One was Trader XO in 2022 when we were downtrending. He was like, "You guys all got out traded by some boomer EMAs," which is very true. Like the high time frame weekly 1221 was just aiming straight down, and people kept trying to call bottom before those flattened out and got flipped. And then this year, when we had the uptrend in 2023, Don Alt, I think in January, was calling out a lot of the SFP traders, and he was like, "SFP short, SFP short, SFP stay fucking poor."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's amazing. Like without even knowing it, they're basically giving approval to what I see in the markets as well, as far as like, just trade the trend, trade the momentum of the market, and be kind of just in the market, be a passive participant and have a way to manage risk along the way. So yeah, it's really cool that we both share that in common. Very, very rare breed, I think we are.
Yeah, I love it though. And I gotta say that I see more and more people getting enthusiastic about it lately. And I think it's beautiful timing because I kind of discovered them. I wouldn't say too late into last cycle, but I was definitely like raised in a bear market to say so.
Yeah.
I learned how to trade when things were like we were celebrating like 5% or 10% moves. when I started trading, which
Mm,
was in the summer of 2018. I never had the upcycle of 2017.
right.
And I think that when you really want to catch like the meat of the move, like a big trend, then these are extremely useful. And I kind of learned that along the way when things started to go up, which
Yeah.
was it was an amazing timing. And I think for the people right now diving into this, it's even a better timing because they're more close to, not being inside that huge move yet. While I started doing it when we were already like in it.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned that you got your start kind of like in the bear market. Do you think that there's advantages for someone getting their start in the bear market, such as like last year in 2022, sticking it out through that period? Because I like to think that I got my start through the bear market, but that's not really true because I was active throughout the whole bull market. I was just an idiot. I just didn't know what I was doing and I didn't have a plan and I was just allowing the market to carry me pretty much, right? It
Yeah.
wasn't until 2022 that I was like, oh, okay, I actually need to learn what I'm doing if I want to be successful here. But what was your experience like learning in 2018?
I think that it's a harder teacher, but a better one. So it will be less enjoyable because you will fail more and the rewards are smaller. And that's why a lot of people will bail because it's just not, it doesn't give them enough dopamine, it doesn't give
Hmm.
them enough profits. But however, the people that do push through and keep on learning, they will come out so strong on the other end. And I think that in my case, I really learned the basics of price action because that was literally all we had
Right.
back then, right? There was no trend. It was just so minimal, the price action that we had, that you really had to focus on being super strong in the basics.
Hmm.
And also, I think that the people that were there at that point, just like the people that are here now, are the people that truly enjoy this and they
Yeah.
will go out of their way to get the rewards. And that makes you strong. And that also makes you deserving of the things that are to come.
Yeah. One thing you said there, I don't want it to go unnoticed, is very important. You said the people that are here are the ones that truly love it. And I like to echo this that, if if you want to be successful in anything in life, you have to really love it. You can't treat it like a 9 to 5 job because you'll get bored, you'll get tired, you won't want to wake up, you won't want to do the work. But if you really love something and you're passionate about it, it becomes easy because it becomes like you're playing, you're
A
living life
hundred
just to
percent.
enjoy, and you're getting better at the same time. So I think that's really important. I didn't want that to go unnoticed that you said that there. Um,
Yeah, I fully agree. And I think that especially because crypto is something that is very online and it's also very, I don't want to say lonely, but it's something that you do by yourself, right?
yeah.
And I remember that when I started to be successful, which was when was still working my old job, a lot of people were like, oh, you just like did that overnight. And then I thought to myself, no, I did not, because I showed up at like 7:30 at the office when I still had a full-time job to
Mm,
study trading. I was in minus for so long when
yeah.
I was trading Forex a little bit before crypto. I fucking sucked at it. So, but I kind of did push through because I truly felt like that spark every time that I did do something right and every time that I did feel like I took a step further. And that is super important because a lot of my friends have tried trading, have tried to do like the courses and so forth, and a lot of them just drop it because they don't enjoy it too much. They
Yeah.
love the money if it comes, but the money doesn't always come, especially not when you're not putting in the work.
So you got your start in Forex. What brought you to trading in the first place?
My dad.
Oh, really? He's a trader?
Yeah, he's a trader. I mean, not a full-time one, but he did it as a pretty big side hustle when I was a
Hmm.
kid. He's even more degen than me. It's like pretty crazy. He always trades without stop and stuff. It's super funny. But yeah, so he used to do not Forex, but he did like stocks and options. And
Hmm.
then a friend of his got him into crypto and he did like a 10x on XRP in 2017.
Hmm.
And I saw that and I was like, why on earth would I be trading Forex if my dad is doing like a 10x in
Yeah,
crypto right
exactly.
next to me? So it took me a little bit to get convinced, but then after like a few months, I started to get into it, but then the whole market already died.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a funny momentum, but maybe for the best.
I think a lot of us have that same, intro to crypto of like, well, why am I trading this when crypto does something so much better, right? I think a lot of us have that same thing in common. That's why I came, or actually why I stayed in crypto, because I was starting off with stocks and options as well. And I was just going out on the risk curve, during the bubble and trying to find the next opportunity, the next, you know, big move. And altcoins were really the thing that I saw. Like I think it was April 2021, and I was like, what is going on? I'm waking up every day, a different altcoins up 30%, 40%, 50%. And I was like, I need to learn. I need to stick around. This is the place to be. But I think it's very funny that we all come to crypto for that move. We all come for like the 40, 50% move. But
Of
then cycle
course.
but then psychologically, people get really upset if they're not in the move from the ground floor. Like if they miss
Mm.
10%, they're like, oh, I want it to dump. And they get angry and they watch it and they try shorting and revenge trading instead of trying to develop a system that allows them to play into a trend. Because one thing I like to say is like, if you can't buy something that's up 20, 30, 50% in crypto, you're never going to make money.
Oh, I so agree with that. I think in general, people just get addicted to the opportunity and the growth. And maybe not even growth is not even the right word, but just the fact that it's so volatile is kind of addicting because it makes everything else really boring. And if you've seen things move like 3x overnight, you cannot unsee that. You cannot go back to TradFi as easily. Um, I personally would not be able to do that. And I think also with crypto, the fact that the opportunity of meeting people and of making a difference is really, really big
Hmm.
compared to other spaces. And I think that with us, it is so easy to just comment, below someone's post and get in touch with a founder, or
Yeah.
even you can see it how easy like crypto people can infiltrate celebrities, for instance.
Yeah.
It's like a really insane thing to see, I
You're
think,
even seeing that
personally.
with like friend tech nowadays, how there's different like micro celebrities coming over to friend tech all the time. I saw like a basketball player joined like the first week or two. It's pretty cool.
It is, for
Yeah.
sure. Which I think will only be exponentially growing next cycle. Like those links will
Yeah,
get even shorter.
for sure. So wow, what an intro. I didn't even get to ask you any of the scheduled questions yet. But the first thing I wanted to ask you is like, 2023 was such an opportunistic year. I believe that like it wasn't a true cycle, but you could think of it as like a practice year or a mini cycle. A lot of people are calling it the echo bubble. But I like to refer to it as like the practice year, because we all know like the real bull market should be coming next year or the year after, right? Um,
Mm.
did you have a plan for going into 2023? Was that on your radar of like this year could provide some opportunities? And if you had a plan, do you mind sharing with us like some of the ideas that you had?
So for me, 2022 was pretty rough because of a few personal reasons as well as FTX
Yeah.
being one of those main reasons as well. I think that I definitely did have the feeling of, okay, things got really, really shitty. And often after things get really, really shitty, there is definitely room for upside.
Hmm.
I gotta say that my mind was pretty clouded because of what happened. Um, so I
Fucking
kind
same.
of, yeah, so I, for real. So I kind of went into it with an open mind, definitely hungry for opportunity, but also not trying to plan too much because I think when you're in a state of elevated emotions, it's not good to cling onto something too strongly because you're not seeing as clear as if you were unaffected.
Hmm.
However, I do think that, Q1 was amazing for us. Like, I mean, you were also trading. It was incredible for trend traders, like really, really insane opportunities during
Yeah.
that quarter. I think I then had a bit of, um, yeah, a kind of a lesson for myself that I really wanted to be able to scale out of the market when it was time to do so and not going with FOMO. And that has really been something that I have struggled with in the past. And I think that April this year really gave me the opportunity, and then again this summer, to kind of strengthen the muscle of resisting FOMO. And I can confidently say that I've gotten a lot better at that, which for me makes this year incredibly successful because my Q1 was incredible. Then I had some lessons along the way, and I think, with the on-chain stuff adding to that this summer, yeah, I'm pretty happy with this year.
Yeah, I love to hear that. Were you able to recover some of those FTX losses? I hope so, man. That was
Yes.
tragic. That was tragic.
Yeah, it was truly tragic, but for sure able to recover
Yeah,
and,
thank God.
up only
Onwards and
from
upwards
here.
from here.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And I also, there's one thing that I do want to say with that is that I've always tried to be very neutral when it comes to these things. Yes, it was very shitty,
yeah,
but we also got to realize that this space is a wild west, and the reason that we are able to make this much money is directly correlated to that, just as the whole SBF thing. But also, I got hacked as well last year.
shit.
I've lost money on rugs in the past, which was completely my own fault. But still, like, all those things are related to the fact that this
Yep,
industry is the Wild West. And
yep.
if we kind of use it in our benefit, then we also cannot complain as much if it fucks us over sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. It's like playing with fire, right? Fire
It
is like the
is.
best tool that man's ever created, or the best discovery early on, but it also can kill you, right? So crypto is just like that.
Wise words.
Yeah. So would you say that you've been experienced, you've been in the market since 2018, 2023 is like 5, 6 years in for you. Are you still learning things? Are you still picking up things for as far as trading, maybe psychology, maybe your system, or even just the general market? Playing market, playing sentiment, playing news. Is there anything that you added to your system in 2023 so far?
Oh, 100%. I think that diversifying in skill has made me better in all the separate skills by itself.
Mm,
And what that means for me is that, for instance, being able to grow in my fundamental skills, but also in my advisory skills, for instance, as well as Twitter, creating content that people find useful, all of those things are different aspects of our industry. And I think that strengthening those skills will make it much easier for you to say, hey, maybe it's not the time right now to trade on chain. Let me just pivot my attention to something else. For
right.
instance, when the market kind of went meh after Q1, it's much easier for you to say, like, hey, things don't look as good as they were looking before, but I have this, this, and this on the side that I can give attention to and, start learning a new skill. I think I've invested a lot of time in sharpening my fundamental skills, also spend a lot of time giving love to my network,
Mhm.
helping out my friends. I think that those things are equally important if you want to make it in this industry.
Yeah, it's very underrated, and honestly, from my point of view, sometimes it feels like it's taboo. It feels like the way that CT operates, you're only allowed to trade, you're only allowed to talk about trading, you can only talk about charts, but everything else is not allowed. You're not allowed to build yourself up, you're not allowed to talk about anything outside of that. Do you get that same impression?
Oh, 100%. And I think that you kind of just have to say fuck it, because I was feeling like that for a long time. And believe me, I have a lot to say, whether that's about the industry, whether that's about like my network or how things go in the space. And for the longest time, I was just not sharing that because I thought, like,
Mhm.
oh, that might not be what people want to hear. And at some point, I realized it's my Twitter.
Yeah.
Like, I'll post whatever the fuck I want. And if people don't enjoy that, then they're welcome to unfollow me.
Yeah. That's kind of my experience with Twitter as well, is like I only got on Twitter because I was looking down the rabbit hole. I was like looking for where do I find the information? Because I started on Reddit, and I don't know if you know, but Reddit is like the worst source for crypto information. Like you don't want to be on Reddit. And I don't know how I found CT, but I think it was just pretty much my friend was telling me, hey, you should go on Twitter for latest news. And I maybe
Mm.
got like a recommendation for someone along the way, and I found Kobe and I found Hasaka early on. And I was just very fortunate to fall down the right place. And I thought, the only thing for me here is let me share some of my ideas. And I had like no followers, and I was like, let me just post my charts. And if you go back, and I say this to everyone, like if you go back and you go like back 2 years, you'll see how bad of a trader I was and how bad my ideas were. But I still wasn't shy. I was like, let me just share. I'll get better.
Hmm.
And maybe I'll look stupid and maybe everything will be bad, but I'll get better. And there's like it's like a progression journal over time. And I think as I started getting followers, they all just came to know me as the guy that just only posted setups, right? So I only posted charts and I only posted actionable trades and thoughts and analysis. And when I started branching out and doing YouTube and talking about other things and sharing, you notice the engagement just goes down to zero. They just like everyone kind of just uses you for one thing. You become branded as that guy, right? And like it's like you said, it's like it's your Twitter. You're allowed to do with it what you want. But it's interesting how people get psychologically conditioned to expect certain things from you. And I
Yeah,
don't know if you've experienced that as well, because like people are just looking to help themselves at the end
of
of the day.
course. But sometimes you gotta give people what they want before they know that they want it. You
Mm,
know, that's kind of my approach. And I think as long as you do things with integrity and while you're authentic, I think that is the most important. And I think you do that for sure.
thank you. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the clinic is like a Discord that I built that's like completely open. And the only reason I built it or opened it was like I just want to talk in more long form because Twitter's kind of hard to do that.
Mm.
And I never really advertised it, and a bunch of people just started showing up, like word of mouth, and there's like 1,200 people in there now. And it's
Oh,
kind of
wow.
beautiful to watch. Like every morning, people wake up, they say good morning, they share ideas, they talk charts, crypto, equities, you name it, is in there, and it's really nice and humbling to wake up and be able to see so many people excited to talk crypto and trade and everything like that. So that is like the best reward I've gotten so far from like being on Twitter is just like building that Discord out. That I don't know.
Of course,
Yeah,
because it gives you purpose.
yeah, super
Like,
fun.
I truly believe that as much as some people say that they only want to see charts, like, in the end, we all do this because we like it, but also
Yep.
because of money. But money is very empty without a purpose. So
Yeah,
I think that,
absolutely.
like, tying those two together and being able to share lessons that might save others the headache, the pain, the time that you have spent on those things, that's a beautiful thing.
And I think also it's really unique that crypto has this community. I don't know any other financial like or anything else in the world that has so much camaraderie in a solo sport, if you will. Like you mentioned earlier, trading is a very solo thing, but we've socialized it so well on CT that when I log in or when I open up Twitter, it almost feels like I know the people there. I'm like, I know what to expect
Mhm.
when Adam posts something. I know what to expect when a Wawat posts something. Like I feel like I know these people through the screen, and we all just kind of wake up every morning, we greet each other, and we just have a good time. It's very unique.
Yeah, we're very close to the source, I think. I think that's why, because with other, like, TradFi or whatever industry, it will always feel like there's someone making the decisions above you, like some bigger entity that you don't have any influence
Hmm.
over. Does that make sense? I
Yeah,
think with crypto, it's much more horizontal and it's like the people for the people, which is one
yeah,
of the
I agree
things
with
that
you.
attracted me to it in the first place.
I agree with you. It feels like our industry. It doesn't feel like we're in someone else's industry. It feels like we own it. Yeah, agree with you there.
Exactly.
We got a little off topic there, but I wanted to ask you for the people that might have maybe underperformed in 2023, like they missed the echo bubble or they missed the opportunistic year and they're looking forward to the next one, 2024, 2025. Do you think there's any advice that you could give those people on how to prepare themselves for what potentially may come in the years to come?
Definitely. I would say that there's obviously two big things that are kind of different strategy wise, which first would be obviously your trading and then secondly your investing.
Mhm.
I think that when it comes to your trading, I would firstly advise those people that maybe didn't do so well to really journal and go back in time and see what it was that were the biggest mistakes that they made, and most importantly, the mistakes that they repeated, because those are often the most persistent. I think that after doing that and making that analysis of the past, I would say really sit down with yourself and strategize, like, is the way that I'm trading the right way for me? And if it's not, maybe look for something that does fit you and kind of get the results from that by practicing with small size
Mhm.
and seeing if it works. Because I think that, Doc, for you and me both, my results were, my hit rate was way lower before I started EMAs. Like, this was for me just a thing that clicked.
Yep.
And it was something that I have tried and tested, like different strategies. And this for me was the thing that I was like, I feel so much more confident training like this. My hit rate is better. I'm more excited about it. And I think that is just a feeling that you have to
I
have, you know, something has to click.
Yeah, I definitely take less trades ever since moving to an EMA system. I take less trades, I pick my spots, and the hit rate is a lot higher. The
Mm,
win rate of the trades has gotten a lot higher because I just use, instead of just blindly trading price and trading liquidity, and not really always understanding why some trades get a lot of follow through and some trades end up in chop. When you add an extra layer to the trading, it kind of clarifies a lot of things for you. But at least that's
exactly.
how it was for me.
100%.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would give those advices for people that had a bit of a shitty trading year. Then also I would say, like, you know, if you look at this charts, personally for me, this does not look like the easiest spots. I'm seeing like a very clean trend and I'm seeing a lot of chop now. So
Mhm.
do not be too hard on yourself if right now is not your best performing month, because for me September was not extremely exciting either. I did
Yeah.
close to nothing, apart from some on-chain stuff. And I think, secondly, from the investing perspective, I would say think about what your own perspective is in terms of this cycle, like truly bottoming out. And then I don't mean like bottoming out like this, which is like the absolute low of the low, peak fear, peak depression,
Yeah.
SBF fucking things up, but more in a sense of like, okay, how do we feel about this structure wise? Would we maybe want to see a bit more like time based capitulation, as I believe Pentoshi
Yep.
likes to call it? And obviously, that same advice goes to a chart like the total two here, where you would ask yourself, like, okay, you know, we have these lows. Do we maybe want to sweep off that and then see action, or do we feel like this is going to come down even more? That's obviously something for those people to answer. I am expecting this to hopefully go down a bit more, because
Mhm.
that is just something that has my preference at the moment. And then apart from that aspect, which is the timing, I would say really, really go super deep in research mode and look at the narratives. Like,
Yep.
what do you think is going to perform next cycle? What are you confident in? What are the best coins in that narrative? Is there timing to take into account, or like regulations? You know what I mean? There's just a
Exactly.
lot to think about.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, you're talking a little bit about a mix of like trading and investing, and I know you do both. What do you think is more beneficial for you as a market participant, and what have you enjoyed more? Because before I let you answer, just like me personally, no matter how good a trader I become, I honestly believe that you're not going to be able to out trade a trending market. You're not going to be able to out trade a bull market. There's probably only like 4 people on CT that can literally out trade a bull market. Do you think it's still wise for people who maybe they're unprofitable here in Q4 2023 to still be like, I'm going to dedicate my time to becoming a profitable trader, or should they shift gears now and focus more on just opportunities for buy and hold?
I'm shifting my gears, so that would give you the answer.
Hmm.
However, I do think that, to give you a quick example, it is sometimes very helpful to have like your own basic idea of your trading strategy, because if you get a move like this, for instance, on Solana, which
Yeah.
is something that, we traded on the timeline here, which I've discussed also in my EMA videos. So if you want a bit more context, you can go and check those out. I would want to have confidence in my trading for the times that these opportunities arise. However, the like majority of my time will be focused on investing,
Mhm.
and it is definitely something that I enjoy the most. Yes.
Gotcha, 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 gotcha. That also brings me to another thing. When you are trading, since you are a trend trader, since you are an EMA trader, how much do you concern yourself with bottoms and tops? Like, does it matter to you trying to catch a pico bottom? Is that anything on your radar in a system? Do you knife catch? Do you speculate on bottoms, or do you allow the strength to build and then play into that?
I knife catch, but it's
You
more
do?
for the fun.
Oh, gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah, it is. No, I would say as an EMA trader, for sure, we are looking for just the majority of the move.
Hmm.
And those are also my best trades. But I am definitely a dopamine junkie. So I will make an attempt, sometimes successful, sometimes unsuccessful. But
I
yeah, those things are, it really depends on your system. But for me personally, the bottom is not my biggest concern.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you there. I also try to, buy bottoms, sell tops because I think you can do both. I think you can use EMAs to carry yourself throughout a trend. And I think you can also use top signals and bottom signals. Like you have Solana on your chart here. That wick kind of in the middle in June was based off of, Robinhood is selling their spot Solana. Solana's listed as a security. What else? The SEC is like suing Coinbase. Like a lot of
Mm,
these things were happening at that time, and it just dropped right into demand, right? So
100%.
as a trend trader, you're like, I can't touch that. But if you understand a little bit of game theory, if you understand a little bit of fear-based selling and some demand and supply zones, you can definitely catch that knife there. And conversely, the wick to the top side, that was XRP day. That was XRP winning the case against the SEC, and you're getting kind of like a blow off top. So you can kind of do both, and you can kind of trade the middle. It's all possible. It's not a fantasy.
Yeah, no, it is definitely both possible. I gotta say that, like, to trade tops and bottoms very precisely, you have to be super in tune with the market, like being around, being on top of the news on Twitter, you know what I mean? Like the sentiment, which is something that I definitely was not this summer. And that is why I really love the EMAs, because I can take one look at a chart and see if it looks good or not without needing to be like extremely plugged in. But I for sure agree with you, like combining those two is the best. And this is something that I always say, that I don't trade EMAs by themselves. I use confluence always and market structure always first.
Definitely, definitely agree with you there. Um, I think Mercury says something. Like, he's very like famous for saying he's always going to be bearish at the bottom and bullish at the top because he's very very strict with his system. I actually asked him and I was like, well, how much discretion do you add to your system? And he said, well, over time I realized that I can't outtrade my system, and the more discretion I add, the less likely I'm going to be successful over a period of time. So he just completely defers to the system. I also had Motif on recently, and I asked him a similar question. I said, how systematic are you versus discretionary? And he said the same thing. He's like, over time, I've grown to automate the system and just trust the system so that I can take a more hands-off approach. What about you? Do you add a lot of discretion to your system, or is it purely systematic? And I'm speaking about crypto in a whole here, not just simply the trading.
I gotta say, they both are amazing with that. Like, I know Motive, pretty well just from the timeline, but also from DMs. And I know that he has like a very strict system. Obviously, he builds indicators. So to do that, you
Yeah, he's
need
a
a set of
gigabrain.
rules. Exactly. You need a set of rules. I would say that with me, it's a bit of a 50-50. There's definitely a system, but there's also some of my biggest hits have been when it's just like an intuition, like a feeling, and mostly with low caps also just going for it, kind of,
Hmm.
which sounds very vague. But I did a post on intuition with trading the other day, and one of my friends commented below it, which I thought was an extremely useful comment, and he said it is intuition, but it's also experience from thousands of little moments that you went through to get to this point.
Right.
And that is kind of giving you the full scope of, when you look at something or when you hear something or when you see something, you have that feeling of what to do. It's not just intuition, just like a gut feeling, but it's also a thousand moments of experience.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Hasaka relies heavily. I think he's one of the most I think he's one of the smartest and probably best traders in our industry. But he often says that he trusts his gut and trusts his intuition. And I think he posts a meme a lot that is something on like along the lines of like your intuition is built over thousands of generations of species into your DNA. Your invalidation is upon death, something like that. And I think that's very clever because it is true. You can rely on your emotions and your gut, especially you can inverse yourself because I think there's often times when we feel the absolute most gut wrenching fear that, like, oh, if I buy this, I'm guaranteed to lose money. Often those times are the best times to buy. It can really be that simple. So you can use discretion in moments to be successful. At least I believe that there's a lot of discretion that goes into my system because if I purely trade systematically, I believe for myself that I would have a lower hit rate.
Oh, 100%. And I think that as well, some of the traders that you mentioned, which are amazing traders, they also trade like the more common pairs.
Mhm.
Whereas for me, and this is not something that I share a lot, but me and some friends, like we use like for instance CoinLise a lot, and not necessarily to be like very deep dive into open interests and volumes and stuff, but it's more like taking a look at the homepage of Coinalyze, which for those who don't know displays volumes and all things like that,
Right.
and just taking a look and seeing something that's out of the ordinary. For instance, like Cyber a few weeks ago
Yeah.
was doing like a 7 billion volume, which does not make sense at all.
Right.
And I think that seeing those things and also seeing certain structures on a chart just gives you like the gut feeling because you've spent so many years in the market that you're like, that usually is not like that, and that is kind of a gut feeling, but it's also just an analysis of all the things that you have seen and seeing something that has a pattern that doesn't fit into the usual pattern.
Right. Exactly. So, speaking of, are you partaking in the quote unquote like cartel coin festivities this year?
I have not recently, but I think that yeah, we did catch some moves on those. It's me and two of my friends from Uruguay.
Hmm.
Very interesting people. I would love to link you up to them sometime. I think you guys will make a good match.
For
But they
sure.
are
Shout out
they are
Uruguay.
insane with that kind of trading. They have a gut feeling that is bizarre. I don't know how to do it. So we kind of catch those moves sometimes. But
Gotcha.
but once again, it is not, I don't do a deep dive in the open interest statistic that some of the people that I know on Twitter do. Like I respect it a lot.
Hmm.
But for me, it's just taking a glance and seeing if it fits what I usually see,
Yeah.
which is
For
extremely helpful in my experience.
Yeah, totally. In my experience with cartel coins, I have a horrible hit rate. Like I cannot trade cartel coins for shit. I have a good understanding of a lot of the open interest CVD dynamics. I can watch flows, I can read flows, but I have a horrible job. I mean, I do a horrible job of trading it actionably because a lot of what I like to trade is around like order blocks and liquidity. And you'll see cartel coins run the same liquidity like 4 times in a row, which makes no sense, right? And then you'll see it just completely knife through order blocks on some coins and the other coins respect it. So I just, after, screwing up a few times and then taking a bunch of mental trades where I'm like, my system is not catered to this, I've been ignoring them for the past few months. I'm like, I can't trade these coins.
I mean, I gotta say, the past few months they've been way too random too. Like there was a little bit of sense into it, and I wouldn't even call them cartel coin trades. In the beginning of the year, it was more so like things that had a narrative,
Right,
which
yeah.
just had a lot of volume. And now the past few months, it's just been completely random, and it's manipulated. So who the fuck knows what's gonna happen,
Yeah,
right?
the narrative coins I love to trade. Anything with a narrative makes a lot of sense to me, but when coins like TRB are just popping off because they got like DWF strategic partnerships and whatnot, I'm like, no, just miss me with that. I'm not going to trade these.
Smart.
Yeah, yeah. Do you play around with crypto outside of trading and investing? Are you in NFTs and stuff? You mentioned on chain. Do you also like trade NFTs, speculate on NFTs?
I do not trade NFTs because just like you with the cartel coins, my hit rate trading NFTs is absolutely horrendous. I also could not get used to the fact that they're not liquid.
Yeah.
Like that was for me, like I'm such a big shitcoiner, even though I don't talk about it as much on Twitter anymore due to account size reasons and so forth.
Yeah.
Like that is definitely my bread and butter and what I enjoy most and what I think I'm best at. And I'm used to just being able to, you know, maybe in clips, but if you want to get out of something, then at least you can. It might take you some time and some effort, but it's just one interface away. And I think with
Yeah.
NFTs, for me, it was really hard to get used to the fact that you actually need someone to buy it from you.
Yeah, because the only way that I found to trade NFTs is like you should buy the floor pieces. Like you shouldn't buy anything with rare qualities. You just buy the floor pieces because the floor is always going to be somewhat liquid, right? There's always
Mm.
someone willing to buy the floor. So if you want to dump it to the cheapest, to the last resort, you can always do that. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't make money on NFTs at all, but I do get enticed very often. Like right now I'm like, oh, everyone wants Miladies. I should probably pick up some. They're dropping back to like 2 ETH or 1 ETH or something like that. I'm sure they'll do well. So I still get enticed, but I'm like, you know what? I'm not expecting to make a bunch of money on this. In fact, it'll probably just go to zero because I'm not good at trading NFTs at all.
Yeah, I gotta say, I definitely enjoy them. And I might be picking up some things, but more like for the culture. I think like me ladies are definitely a culture piece as well, just like punks are and so forth.
Yeah.
I think there are beautiful use cases for NFTs down the road, especially with like the real world assets narrative heating up a bit right now. I think that NFTs will be nice for that down the road. But yeah, honestly, there are so many interesting things to do in this space, and I definitely do know what I'm good at and what I'm not good at,
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you cannot enjoy the art, obviously.
Agreed. Um, so you mentioned that you're like really into like on chain and specifically trading shitcoins and on chain and stuff like that. How much do you bother with majors? Do you trade majors at all? Do you accumulate majors, or do you kind of just use them as an index for market health?
I am definitely trading them when circumstances are good for it
Mm-hmm.
because it's the easiest to trade in terms of like liquidity and so forth. But I think there's a time and a place for it. I think that for instance, like if Solana does goes back to, let's see, like this little area, like I would love to pick some up for the long run, like
Mm-hmm.
anywhere around here. But I don't think that I would enjoy buying at this spot, so I will not. And I didn't right here. I know you did, so amazing, good for you. Not sure if you're still holding that, but yeah,
No,
I
no.
think some of these majors, yeah, if there's a good opportunity, I will buy and hold them into the next cycle. However, I do think that with the knowledge and the network that I have, there's just a lot of opportunity on chain.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
And I think that if you can buy low caps that become mid caps that become higher caps, not saying, that we're buying the next Solana over here, but there's definitely a lot of opportunity to just make those multiples.
Right. Yeah, the only ones that I did well with this year on chain were RLB and Unibot. Those are the two main ones, and I think a lot of people did well on those ones. But yeah, I mean, once you see something that can do a 20x, a 50x from basically nothing, and then go into a top 100 coin, I think Unibot hit top 100 if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, once you see that, I understand the allure to being like, well, I want to focus on fundamentals. I want to find these microcaps. I want to find what can catch the mind virus. Do you have
Mm.
a strategy for that? How do you go about doing the fundamental analysis or speculating on the microcaps?
I would say that the most important thing is definitely, once again, like that market feel that you get by just spending a lot of time in the market.
Hmm.
And I think that is the most important with fundamentals, because it really comes down to narratives in the end, right? Like, you want to be ahead of the curve, you want to be a trailblazer, and you want to be in circles with people that are spending their time the same way. I think kind of anticipating on what is going to be hot and spotting a narrative very early is extremely useful there. And I think the only way of doing that is by just making a lot of hours, but
Yeah.
like a lot of hours. And you will at some point just get more sharp about it. You will see what things fade quickly and what things are here to stay. And obviously, not saying that you're always going to be right, but I think there is definitely a skill set there.
Yeah, gotcha. Understood. Um, so what do you think now going forward with like Unibot? Do you think it makes new all-time highs? Do you think it survives, or was it just kind of the on-chain summer shitcoin of choice and it's just going to be irrelevant now? What are your thoughts on Unibot?
I really love Unibots. I think they have an amazing team, nice people. I have told them this as well because I've spoken with them. And
Mm-hmm.
I said that what I think is the most important, I have actually been buying in this zone, which I also tweeted about. So 40s and 50s.
Mm-hmm.
What I think is going to be very important moving forward is that I do think that this has a potential user case, but in the end, it's going to be done by the person that makes it the most simple for new people to onboard. And that means that you want to be as user friendly as possible, and you want to have a more direct link to the normies than just the average guy on CT. Like,
Right.
there has to be an open door for new people to come in and look at this and feel welcome and not feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Like, they have to feel like this is making their life better and not more complicated. And the person who does that first, or who does that the best, is the person who potentially runs with this narrative, because this like was amazing, but no offense, like this is just us, right? The people that are
Yeah,
like in
it
the
is.
space, just feasting with each other, or however you want to call it. Like, this is not new money. This is not like, this was a nice run, but it's not a bull market. And whether it's here to stay, like, I cannot decide that. That's not up to me, because in the end, this is a democracy, right? The people, they vote for what they think is going to be the most successful. Do I think it has potential? Yes, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, my own thoughts on Unibot kind of line up with what Pierre was saying. Is kind of like it seems like a really good proxy for whenever we have on-chain activity. I feel like it's going to be like the no-brainer blue chip trade anytime we see on-chain activity pick up, anytime we see like gas prices pick up, on-chain speculation. You can always just go back and be like, well, I'm going to buy Unibot because it should do well because it's catered to this, right?
Hmm.
One of the only protocols that allows you to do like limit orders and stuff like that. Before Unibot, I didn't even know that we could do that. I was like, are we living that far in the past that we can't have limit orders on chain?
Hmm.
Because it's really frustrating that these coins can do 40, 50, 60% moves. But if you're sleeping,
Yep, you're
you're not going
asleep.
to get filled.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah, story of my life before. No, I think that if you look at, for instance, last cycle, I don't know how deep you were into shitcoining, but the amount of like normies that was on BSC chain,
Hmm.
like people on like TikTok and just like taxi drivers and stuff, they were buying and selling shitcoins there, and it was just like such an unfriendly experience, at least for me, in terms of like just user experience and so
Hmm.
forth. And I think that depending on how the cycle goes this time, this 100% has potential, because the rules in terms of regulation for centralized exchanges only got stricter. So why wouldn't there be more people this time around? Those are my thoughts, but that also depends on how crypto is going to behave as a whole. You
Yeah.
know, like I try to look for potential and not necessarily prediction, because
Yeah.
I think that you have to be very humble as a trader and even just as a normal market participant, because you can have all these opinions, but if the market wants something else, then yeah, good luck with those, you
Yeah.
know?
Definitely. I think the biggest hurdle for us right now is the onboarding process. I know like the users and stuff making it easy is definitely important, but the onboarding process, at least for Americans, is so difficult. I had a friend recently that was like, "Hey, I want to pick up, XYZ, help me do that." And it took him 5 days before he got to be able to buy the coin that he wanted. And I spent the time on the phone with him, and it was about an hour or so before he could buy said coin. From the
Mm,
time, and then it was a bunch of swaps, move from this exchange to this, buy ETH, do that, this wallet. You know, just the onboarding process for normies is an absolute nightmare. And one of the best things that I saw recently was, even though it flopped and it got hacked and whatever, was Stars Arena, because all they did is like you connected your Twitter account to it and you already had a wallet set up, and you could already start trading. Like it was probably the easiest onboarding process that I've seen. And I
yeah,
hope that there's more stuff that people we could branch off of that and make it easier for normies to come into the space, because I think
I
that's the biggest
fully
hurdle.
agree. Like simplicity is always key. And as an investor, I try to look from the perspective of all the others and not from my own perspective. Because if I can understand something, like that's great. But I'm just one person,
Yeah,
and all of us that are left on CT right now, we're all just a little group of like people that are extremely dedicated to this, because otherwise we wouldn't be here still, right? After all the shit shows we've been through in the past
yeah,
1.5 years. So maybe we think it's nice, maybe we understand it, but like what is the majority of the people gonna think?
yeah,
And that
yeah,
is that is why, for instance, like Gamblify took off so much, because it's so fun. It's
yeah.
so easy. Like it is something that humans will always look for their next dopamine rush. That
I
is just
think
like
that
how we are programmed.
Yeah, and I think that's why meme coins do so well, right?
Of
They're easy for
course.
normies to understand. I've been on a lot of Link Marine spaces recently. They had their SmartCon conference recently, so they had a lot of spaces. I have a lot of friends that are Link Marines, and they're super bullish on their coin, and they're bullish on the developments and the tech and everything like that. And one of the things I kept asking them, I was like, look, I've been in the space for a few years now. I understand Bitcoin, I understand Ethereum, I understand some L1s, but the further we get down the line in the tech, the harder it is for me to understand. How would you explain Chainlink to someone like my mom who has no idea what crypto is? And they had a hard time pitching Chainlink to like a normie. I was
Mm,
like, how are you going to explain this? And it was very difficult for them to explain Chainlink in very, very simple, like explain like I'm five terms. And I think that's another thing when it comes to investing. Like you mentioned, it's your job as an investor to buy or speculate on what other people might like. And I hold that very true as well. I think it was like MGNR that had a tweet like that once that was like, your job as an investor is to buy what other people want, not what you think
mm.
that is good, right? So I think that's why Chainlink continues to underperform, is like people have no idea what's going on with Chainlink. They don't understand the tech. They just see the chart and they see that it's underperforming. And there's not an easy narrative to catch on. And that's
Listen, the majority of the people are stupid. So that's always what you no, but it's true. You always
it
have to
is. It
keep that
is.
in mind. Like I have sometimes friends offering me allocations or OTC or whatever, and they will explain me like some incredibly complicated DeFi structure, and I'll be like, that sounds so great. But I get it if I really wrap my head around it. I just don't know if this is like, you know what I mean, gonna take off in the way that you think, simply because are the people going to understand what you're talking about? And of
Exactly.
course, one of them might be the future of friends, and some of them are like making a really big difference and changing the world. But I think that even with the most complicated things, ideally, you would still be able to explain it in 2 sentences.
Yeah. I think the most bullish coins in crypto are always the ones with the easiest to understand narratives, because crypto is a very like voodoo space. It's a very unknown area. A lot of people have like weird misconceptions about crypto, which honestly they probably should. You should be skeptical of crypto, to be honest. But the coins that really do the best and survive are the easiest to understand. And I think we should as investors, at least in the crypto space, it's obviously it's great to buy fundamentals, and buy what may change the space, but if you want the best returns and if you want the bubble, I think you should chase the ones that are easiest to understand, which is why I think Unibot did so great this summer. It was kind of like, look, on-chain coins are doing well. This allows you to use limit orders, right? It was such a simple thing, that I think that's why it caught fire. Also, like RLB, right? Hey, let's gamble. Let's do 1,000x trades, and we have a crypto native space that allows us to bet on sports and whatnot. Very easy to understand
Yeah,
narrative like that. And I think
of
that's what can,
course, and a fun narrative
yeah,
in RLB's case.
yeah, yeah. Um, do you buy or speculate on meme coins yourself? Do you have a meme coin of choice going into next cycle?
I have not actually. Do you?
I'm very bullish on Pepe. I think Pepe will flip SHIB at the peak of the bull market. I think I'm actually kind of happy that it's fallen off everyone's radar right now. When we
Oof.
had that rally in June and July, a lot of people were saying the same thing as me. It's like, oh, it'll flip SHIB, it'll do this, and it'll do that. And I haven't heard any of that talk right now, which I like.
Yeah, you wanted to completely die.
Yeah,
Like the
that's
only
what I
thing
kind
that
of
I'm
want.
that I'm a bit wondering like about is the whole thing with like their name and there being like different people doing the same name and that whole drama with the founders and stuff. Like how did that end? Do you know?
Yeah, I think there are two Pepe coins. There's like one like OG Pepe coin, and there's like a new one, but I think the new one is really just the one that took over the mind virus, and it'll be the one that sticks around. Price really speaks volumes, right? And that one kind of won the price war, so I'll be sticking to betting on that one. I'm not saying it'll flip Dogecoin. I think Dogecoin is like the Bitcoin of meme coins. It's not going anywhere. It'll probably do really well. But from a ROI standpoint, I think Pepe will give you much better returns next cycle. At least that's my bet. That's where I'm putting my money.
Listen, it's the new kid in town. That's
Yeah.
always good.
And we post frogs all day, right? That's what we do on CT.
Yes, people
So
are reminded by
easy to
it all the
understand.
time. So that's a good one.
Yeah, easy to understand. We've casually talked about everything in like an hour already. I think it's always interesting whenever I talk to other traders or like-minded individuals, like how easy it is to speak for an hour. And I know we can go on for like hours and hours and hours like that, but maybe now is a good time to wrap it up. But one thing I love to ask all of our guests before they leave is, do you have any imparting wisdom for us and the viewers on like health, wealth, life, happiness outside of crypto?
Hmm. Well, first, inside of crypto, like I said, find your edge and double
Mhm.
down on it. I think that is like my top crypto advice. For the rest, as cliche as it sounds, balance is key. And the more time you spend working on yourself as a person, but also health wise, the more you will get in tune with your flow and your intuition and being better at like choosing your battles basically.
Right.
And I think that as a trader it's very important to always go with the flow. Like you don't want to fight the circumstances. Just like as a human you don't want to be doing that, right? You want to go to the gym when you have the most energy, just
Yep.
like you want to be trading when the circumstances are the best.
Yeah.
And the more that you take care of yourself, the more you will feel like you have a good eye to those circumstances.
Yeah, definitely play to your strengths, play to the conditions. There's a lot of parallels actually between trading and real life. As far as like discipline, patience goes, repetition, stuff like that. Man, there's infinite parallels, and I think Magus said this recently, and I really agree with him. He's like, trading has made me a better person in real life.
Oh,
It's
for
made me a more.
sure.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can agree to that. If you've been in this space for a little bit, you recognize that like, you deal with a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, a lot of self-doubt, a lot of self-sabotage with trading. And if you can overcome a lot of those mental hurdles on the chart, and sitting in your own brain, I think real life ends up being a little bit easier as well.
I think it's the best mirror
Yeah.
because it will amplify all of the qualities that you have, but also the weaknesses.
Hmm. I agree.
It's very confronting, I gotta say.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think sitting there with your own thoughts and no distractions and just watching price, and whether you're like underwater or winning, you learn a lot about yourself. I mean, at least I have.
A
Losing
hundred
a lot of
percent.
money and being underwater, that stress of like just sitting there and seeing red numbers, you know, you learn a lot about yourself in those moments.
I think it was Honey XBT. She tweeted once, if you are losing, are you different around other people? And that made me really think, like, because I think that in the past, like, I have had those situations where it wasn't my best week, or, I was big in the red or whatever. And it did affect, like, how I was feeling. And I think that that was kind of a wake up call for me, because I was like, that is not what I want. And I think that being able to separate those things and really seeing it as work, and also, like I said before, just finding other things that you're good at, and that you can pick up on when circumstances are not as good for trading itself. Like, that is something that I grew like so big on, and I would really recommend to anyone else to just get into that.
Yeah. Yeah, that whole you know, are you different around people when you're losing? I mean, I definitely am, and I definitely have been. It's gotten better, but like I think we need to understand is like people who trade in these markets that are 24/7, you know, that some people with professions with 9 to 5, they kind of leave their work at work, and when they come home, they're like, I don't want to think about work, and they're just home and they're present with their families. People that are in crypto can sometimes always bring the work home with them. You're always looking at your phone. You're always, you know, obsessed with price. You're
Getting
obsessed
alerts.
yeah, you're getting alerts. You may not be sleeping that well. Like this morning, I got an alert at 3:30, or even earlier. I think it was like 3 that I got filled on a position, and I've been up ever since because I couldn't go back to sleep. You know, I
Oh,
got
that's
that
why you
alert.
were up so early. I was like,
Yeah.
why is he DMing me so early?
Yeah, yeah, that's why. I mean, I'm usually up at like 5:30, but I got filled a little bit early. I was like waiting for that fill, and I got filled, and I was like, "Oh, let me go back to sleep," and then I just couldn't go back to sleep. And then it,
Yeah, I mean, I do not sleep the same with big positions open than I
yeah,
do when I'm flat. I
yeah.
definitely.
So now it's on me the rest of the day to be like, okay, well, I didn't get much sleep. In the evening when I get tired, I can't bring that out to my family. I can't like, you know, use that as an excuse. Oh, you know, I'm not gonna, you know, I'm gonna act rude, or I'm gonna be tired. I'm gonna be lazy. I'm not gonna be attentive. Those are
Mm.
those are challenges you face in crypto that I think you don't face in a lot of other professions, or at least you know, jobs, whatever you want to call this.
It's the best training, because in the end of the day, like, I want to be the person that can separate those things. Like, my self-worth is not related to my financial and my performance. Like, obviously, maybe a little bit, but mostly I want to be valued by who I am as an individual, and by how I treat my loved ones and what I do for the world, and not by the money that I make. So
Yeah,
it's very good to
agreed.
separate it while still performing at the same level, and those things can be parallel.
Yeah. I've actually, you know, now you're the fourth guest on, and it's really cool to see that all four of you guys have somewhat similar thoughts when it comes to this like last question. Everyone is always talking about the importance of separating the two personalities, and the focus on who you are outside of crypto, because this is kind of like an addiction at sometimes. It's very, you know, it's because it's money, it's gamified, it's nonstop,
Tell me
and
about it.
yeah,
You better love your life outside of this,
yeah,
otherwise,
yeah.
you're gonna get sucked in.
Don't let crypto become your entire life. Definitely, definitely.
Famous last words.
Yeah. Actually, why don't we leave it there? Those are our famous last words. Don't let crypto become your entire life. Um, but yeah, Dentoshi, it was a pleasure speaking to you today. We had a lot of fun. I think you know, I really enjoyed this conversation, and I hope that you come back and speak to us again sometime soon.
I would love that. Likewise. Thanks, guys, for
Yep.
listening. I'll
You
see you
guys, you guys
around.
know, you guys know Dentoshi. Everyone that's watching this video knows who you are. But in case you don't, I'm gonna leave your Twitter in the description box below, and definitely check out her linked tweet, which I think is the EMA series at this point. And then also you have a really really good one on EMA gap fills. We didn't get to any like trading stuff today, but I think this stuff is way more valuable than just talking about charts and trading sometimes. So yeah, I hope you
Yes.
guys enjoyed. Definitely follow Dentoshi, and then I will see you guys in the next one.
Bye bye.